James Carter didn't buy the house on Maple Lane for a grand dream or to flee a troubled past. At 58, after decades of swinging hammers and hauling lumber across Kentucky's rolling hills, he wanted a quiet corner to call his own. His knees creaked, his back grumbled, and he was done with clients who haggled over invoices and subcontractors who ghosted him. The one-story fixer-upper at the end of a gravel road wasn't much, peeling paint, a sagging fence, but its porch was sturdy cedar, its beams hand-hewn, and most crucially, it wasn't under any HOA's thumb. James had seen what happened to men like him in cookie-cutter neighborhoods, fined for a mailbox's shade of blue or a pile of wood left out overnight. He craved freedom, not control, and Maple Lane promised exactly that. The house had sat empty for years, its last owner, a recluse named Hargrove, dead without heirs. James found it on a faded flyer at a gas station, toured it alone with a flashlight and a thermos of coffee, and knew within minutes it was his. The foundation needed work, and a storm had toppled part of the fence, but the structure was honest. For 4 months, he worked methodically, stripping siding, rebuilding the shed, replacing rotted joists. He kept to himself, waved at neighbors from a distance, and followed an ironclad routine: coffee at dawn, hammer by 6, lunch on the porch by noon. The gravel road stayed quiet, and he liked it that way. Trouble crept in slowly, like a shadow stretching across the yard. In April, James noticed small things. His drill shifted an inch on the workbench, an extension cord unlooped overnight, 3 screws, identical to the ones he'd been using, left on his doormat like a taunt. He chalked it up to fatigue, maybe his mind playing tricks. But the unease grew. He started locking the shed, double-checking the gate, even though its latch was half broken. Then, on a sticky Saturday morning, as he prepped to replace the porch's sagging posts, 2 strangers marched up his steps. They wore matching navy polos, each embroidered with Maple Oversight Committee. The man, wiry with slick sunglasses, stood empty-handed. The woman, stern and gray-haired, clutched a clipboard like a weapon. "Mr. Carter," she began, voice flat as a tax form, "you're in violation of Section 3, Community Aesthetic Standards, for unapproved structural changes." James froze, half expecting a hidden camera. He'd never heard of this committee, and his property wasn't part of any governed tract. "Who are you?" he asked, keeping his tone even. The man smiled, all teeth, no warmth. "We represent the Voluntary Oversight Board for Maple Lane. Reports indicate unauthorized exterior work." James didn't flinch. "There's no board here. I checked when I bought this place." The woman flipped a page. "Your property was annexed under Ordinance 7C last fall. You're opted in by residency." James's pulse quickened. He'd heard whispers of shadow HOAs, groups that sprang up overnight, rewriting rules, harassing owners over trivialities. He thought they were urban legends until now. "You've got no authority," he said, stepping toward his toolbox. The woman thrust a violation notice at him. "Cease work immediately, or face fines." The man moved closer, too close, his hand brushing James's arm as if to guide him. Instinct kicked in, decades of balancing on beams and dodging falling timber. James ducked, grabbed a ladder leaning nearby, and swept the man's legs out from under him. The guy hit the deck with a thud, more shocked than hurt. The woman let out a guttural yell, not scared but furious. "You're done," James said, ladder raised like a shield. They scrambled off, muttering about assault and escalation, and peeled away in an unmarked sedan. The skirmish lit a fuse. James hoped it was a one-off, that they'd mark him as trouble and move on. But the next day, a metal sign appeared, bolted to his fence. "Area under surveillance, Maple Oversight Program." Below, a warning about non-compliance and enforced review. James didn't hesitate. He grabbed his impact driver, ripped the sign down, and tossed it into the ditch. That afternoon, a thick envelope arrived, no stamp, no return address. Inside, a glossy letter from the Maple Oversight Committee accused him of disrupting visual harmony, cited fake maps, and listed fines starting at $900. James didn't panic. He called the county clerk, who laughed at the mention of an annexation ordinance. "That's not real," she said. He then rang a lawyer, Sarah Klein, a local bulldog known for crushing overzealous boards. She booked him for Thursday. The harassment escalated. His sawhorses were moved overnight, precisely 1 foot forward. A solar light vanished, its wires clipped clean. His internet cut out for hours with no explanation. A woman in a red visor jogged past daily, staring too long at his porch. Orange flags sprouted along his property line, unmarked but ominous. A second packet arrived, delivered by the same clipboard woman. She stood at his mailbox, staring at his door for 30 seconds before leaving. The letter upped the fines to $1,200 and included grainy photos of his porch, taken from outside his land. One line chilled him. "Continued resistance may require physical intervention per Article 2D." James stopped sleeping in his bedroom, moving to a windowless office. He installed more cameras, a backup battery, and a trail cam on the carport. He documented everything: photos, timestamps, incident logs. Then came the burnt cedar. A plastic evidence bag hung on his shed, holding a charred piece of his own lumber and a drone photo of his house. No words, just the image watching him. The first true assault hit at 3 a.m. James woke to tires crunching on gravel. From his window, he saw 2 figures, one with a tripod, the other tampering with his fence. No uniforms, no logos. He triggered his cameras, catching them planting a wireless signal device marked MOC. He stored it in a locked cabinet, letting them wonder where it went. Days later, a utility worker, fake, per the power company, poked around his driveway. James confronted him via speakerphone, the dispatcher's voice exposing the ruse. The man fled. A summons followed, filed in small claims court, accusing James of visual obstruction and hostility. It was flimsy but designed to drain him: court dates, legal fees, time. Sarah Klein struck back, filing a countersuit with a structural engineer's report proving the cement sack thrown on his roof could have collapsed it. A dead raccoon appeared by his mailbox, its fur shaved into a triangle. Then, his back door was left ajar, a burnt strip of his tool belt hanging from a nail in the kitchen. James didn't break. He rallied neighbors. One, an old man named Earl, admitted he'd caved to similar pressure years ago. 3 others shared stories of fake fines and tax hikes. Together, they built a case. The climax came at 4:17 a.m. 3 figures crept through the trees. James hit his floodlights, freezing them. 1 ran, 2 stumbled. He recognized the heavy one, the clipboard woman. "Smile," he said, pointing at the camera. Deputies arrived, arresting her for trespassing and violating a protective order. Sarah's injunction dismantled the Maple Oversight Committee. Travis, a PI, exposed their ties to real estate firms plotting to devalue lots for high-density builds. The DA charged 2 directors and a contractor. The shell companies collapsed. By August, the gravel road was quiet again. James stood on his porch, the cedar rails smooth under his hand. The neighbors nodded now, respect replacing suspicion. He didn't celebrate. Victory wasn't a parade, it was the silence he'd earned. The house was his, but it carried scars, every fence post, every beam a reminder of the line he'd held. He'd fought not for glory but for the right to live on his terms, to build something real with his own hands. The Maple Oversight Committee was gone, but James knew peace wasn't permanent. He kept his cameras on, his records filed, his resolve hard as concrete. They'd underestimated him, mistaking silence for surrender. They didn't know he was a builder, and builders don't break, they reinforce. What do you think? Was James a hero for standing his ground, or did he escalate a fight that could have been avoided? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's debate. Where's the line between defending your rights and picking a battle? Hit that like button, subscribe, and share to keep the conversation going.